Today, I'm going to go ahead and follow my color plan to paint my pinch pot planter. So I have my supplies ready to go. I have some brushes, clean cups of water, I have my watercolor palette, and I have my color plan here for reference. So what I'm going to start with is working from lightest to darkest. This way I can layer my colors and I don't have to worry about laying down a lighter color over a darker color, which will probably be impossible. So my color plan had kind of a body of a orangey yellow, and the lightest color was the area that was pressed in by my stamps. So what I'm going to begin doing is I'm going to get some clean water and I'm going to pick up that light orange color and I'm going to start laying that down on the main body of my planter. So keeping in mind, the more water I add, the thinner and the more translucent my paint will be. So that could be a good thing or a not so good thing. So depending on how kind of transparent or how vibrant you want your colors to be will determine how much water you use or how many coats you do. So if after one coat I feel like it's just not, intense enough color-wise, I can go back and do a second or even a third coat. Keep in mind that as I paint, I'm darkening the clay body as it gets wet and that I won't see the true color until it dries, which doesn't take too long, but know that it will lighten again as it dries. Kind of gets that dark gray just like it was when we first used our wet clay. So I'm also going to be careful about painting around the tripod legs that I have created for this planter that it's kind of standing on. So I want to make sure that I have clean lines around those areas, so I'll kind of slow down as I work around those edges and be mindful. I'll be extra careful when I paint them that darker kind of burgundy kind of pink color. So I'm going to continue to do this until I've painted the entire body with this orange, and then I'll go ahead and layer on top of it. Once I've completed the first round of this light orange color, and don't forget I plan to paint that little edge right there, I'm going to now start to layer on a darker orange. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some of this more intense orange, and with a really dry brush I'm going to start to catch some of the high areas where I didn't press the stamp. So I'm going to be careful though not to get too much on the coil detail I have at the top. But so I'm going to try to catch and create some contrast between the stamped areas and the unstamped areas. So I'm just kind of lightly brushing because I want the stamped eyes to really stand out. So this is a really good technique and tool to make that happen. So, and I can also build. So if it's not dark enough after I do one coat, I could go back and try another. But so far, so good. Can kind of clean that up a little bit. Carefully turning. I want to be careful holding my project while I'm working. So kind of working around. It's okay if I get a little bit on my coil detail because again, I'm working from light to dark. So the kind of pink that I have planned for that coil detail will actually cover that. So just a tiny bit more water. And also I'll have to wait until this layer now dries to get a good idea of if I need to do a second coat. So continue to work around, being careful around the legs. And I'll kind of go back to areas that have already dried and work on those, maybe a second round, and see what I think. So now that my second coat of orange has dried, I think I want to bump up the contrast even more. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some of this red orange here on my palette. And that's why we work light to dark, so that we can make adjustments along the way. And so now I think I'll get kind of that contrast I was hoping for in the first pass. So I'll go through just kind of lightly trying to catch the high areas. And one of the benefits of layering our color is it becomes more interesting. It's not just, what we would say kind of straight out of the tube color. It's kind of blended. So building those layers is really helpful for creating strong colors. Now that I'm feeling pretty good about my orange, I'm going to go in and start to work on my coils and my legs. So my printout here is a little bit dark, but what I had hoped to use was this nice bright magenta color. Now, when doing these areas, I definitely need to be more careful and mindful because this pink is darker in value than the oranges I used. So I'm going to carefully paint these coils while coming right up to the line to not get any paint on that kind of main body of my pinch pot. So I like to use this a little bit thicker so I don't have to worry about it running. If I have it too watery, it could drip, and I definitely don't want that to happen. So I'm also going to be kind of rotating it to make sure that I get all of the coils, and I'll have to go along the inside too, because when I look at it, I want to look across and see that it is painted as well on the inside when I go all the way around. So I'll be sure to make sure I get all sides of the coils, kind of work my way on the inside, and then I might work my way on the outside until they are finally complete. So I'll keep doing that and then check in to work on my legs. All right, after spending a significant amount of time and patience painting that decorative coil on the top, I'm really happy with it. I'm going to go ahead and move on to doing the same by very carefully painting the tripod legs that I've created on my planter, being sure to be extra careful around my edges, making those really neat and clean so that they look really thoughtfully painted. Now that I've painted the top and legs of my planter, I have one last thing I want to do that wasn't in my plan. So I like the way the orange highlights. You can see the lighter orange with the darker orange, but I'm going to take it even a step further, and I'm going to add some of my bright pink, and I'm going to very carefully kind of edge the inside of my stamped area. So I'm going to do this with pretty thick paint and a very patient mindset. And I'm going to carefully just highlight those edges where it is stamped. So I'm not going to go over the eye, but I'm just going to follow these curves to really exaggerate these shapes. And I like the way it brings the pink, this magenta, into the main body of the planter as well. I really felt like in reflecting on my design and my plan, it needed something extra to kind of bring the color palette together, and I think this is just what it needs. So I'm going to very carefully continue to paint all around using this pink to connect my color scheme until I'm completely finished. Once I've finished my detailing in pink on the main portion of my pinch pot planter, I'm ready to photograph it and submit it.